Okay, so hello out there, all my Facebook friends and YouTube friends. Listen, Greg Fisher is always concerned and thinking about the Great Commission. And this past few weeks, I've been sharing with a Sunday school class at First Presbyterian Church in Tulsa about the Great Commission and about reaching the world's most vulnerable people with the gospel. And what I'm going to share in this small video is the same thing that I shared last Sunday, or parts of it, that people found to be quite stimulating and quite thought-provoking. And I hope that what we're going to say here today will be thought-provoking and stimulating for you as well. Remember the Great Commission? Jesus said, "All authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Go, therefore, and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all things that I've commanded you. And behold, I am with you always, even unto the end of the age." Well, that's the Great Commission that the church has been tasked with right from the very beginning. Go into the whole world and preach the gospel. And of course, we see throughout the scriptures, and especially when we get to the end in the book of Revelation, that all the nations, all the tribes, all the families, all the tongues are represented around the throne of God. And so this is a great task that we have, and it's a great honor that we have to preach the gospel around the world. When we start talking about how to reach the unreached and who are the most vulnerable, one of the things that is a helpful infographic is this map that shows the 1040 window. Now, if you've been around missions and missionaries at all in the past 30 years, you've seen the 1040 window. This is the area of the world where the least reached people, the least evangelized nations, are said to be. And the dark colored nations on the map are thought to be the least evangelized nations of the world. And certainly that's true. And on the basis of that, we've been raising up mission teams, we've been raising up missionaries, we've been mobilizing resources to try and reach into the 1040 window, and we found it a bit difficult, really, to be honest with you. And so all kinds of alternative approaches and strategies have been used. But there's something else that is a commonality with the people that have been not reached with the gospel. And I want to show you something, and this is what people started to see last Sunday and what they began to find stimulating and thought-provoking. Here is a map put out by UNESCO that shows the adult literacy rates for the entire world. And if you take a look, you will see in sub-Saharan Africa and extending over to India, again, that 1040 window, and the countries you'll see are dark blue, a couple of light blue ones, but really dark colors. Those are areas with the least literate populations that would be way below 50% of the population is literate. So what we're saying is that in the 1040 window are also the least literate people. The least literate people also are there. So there's this blockage, really, because we come to evangelism with such a literate approach, and we're people of the book, and we want people to read, enjoy, and learn from this great book that we have, the Holy Bible, with the Old and the New Testaments in it. But there's also a problem, and that is, how are people going, if that is a part of growing in your faith, if that is an essential element of the faith, the Holy Bible, then how are people going to be reached if they can't read? Here's another infographic that I found to be very, very telling. Again, you're going to see almost the same countries in the 1040 window again, and represented by the blue colors all the way over to India. This map is showing income by nation, and the poorest nations, the nations with the least income per capita, are being represented by the blue all the way to the dark blue. The dark blues, of course, are sort of the maximal poverty-stricken areas, and we can see again that is there's a band of that in that famous 1040 window. So there seems to be a couple of issues here. One is literacy, and the other is economic viability. In other words, how am I living? What are my economic prospects? And they seem to overlap. So, but I'm thinking also about America, because there's a huge population in America that's not reached as well, and that we are losing out on reaching. We're trying so many different ways to do it. But we will find the same three issues in those populations as we do in those populations in the 1040 window. What do I mean? Lack of literacy. You might be thinking, well, this is the United States of America. I mean, we're pretty much literate people. Maybe not. I found these shocking statistics. 20% of high school seniors can be classified as being functionally illiterate at the time they graduate. 70% of the prisoners in our state and federal systems can be classified as illiterate. 85% of all juvenile offenders rate as functionally or marginally illiterate. 43% of those with the lowest literacy skill live in poverty. So there you have it again. We will see that the least evangelized people, and if you want to find them in the United States, go to the local jail, go to the prison, go to the juvenile facilities, go to the children that are in the foster care system. There you're going to find the people in our country that are also the least evangelized, and they have the same other two issues attached with them, and that is low literacy and also low income. So while we're talking about how to reach all of these people, and with the necessity that we have placed upon us, the burden that we have placed upon us by the Lord to reach the whole world, the entire population, all the people groups of the world with the gospel, really we're not doing that great of a job. And as this infographic is going to show, 70% of the world's population lives in that 1040 window, but only 8% of our missionary efforts are being directed there. Of all the mission funding, and here in America, Americans are exceptionally generous people. We give. And even the secular people in our culture are generous. As Americans, we give. That's one of our values. And we give to help those who are less fortunate. But of all of our giving to the cause of world evangelism, less than 2% is being used to reach those who are not literate. 98% of our missions giving is going to reach those who have many times already been reached, or are almost reached, and certainly are literate. Very little of our mission giving is going to reach the people who are really the most vulnerable and really the most separated. And that's a problem. So we have to learn a way to view the world through the lens of people who are oral people rather than literate. We have to learn the elements. Even there's sort of a grammar to the worldview, not just a grammar of language, but a sort of a grammar to the worldview that makes sense out of the world. How are literate people making sense out of the world? How are non-literate people making sense out of the world? And what we're going to find, I believe, is that people that we're missing here in the United States, as well as people that we're missing with our evangelism activities over the worldwide, we're going to find the same issues are there. And we're going to find that literacy and economics are going to be a part of the picture. How are we going to reach them? Well, we're going to have to reach them by learning how to live in their world. So that's something I want to challenge you with today. I want to challenge you that the barriers to the moving of the gospel are not just language barriers, they're also literacy barriers. They're not just economic barriers, there's also a politeness barrier. And in the United States, there's another barrier, and that is the embarrassment of being an adult who is not literate and being able to receive the gospel. So I want you to think, please, about those things, and we'll talk more later.